Proceeding with the normal headphone warning. If you were listening to this using earbuds or headphones or anything of the like, you might want to adjust the volume just a wee bit because I am extremely excited. Holy crap! Oh my, so many freaking bombs in this episode. This is probably one of my you know what? It is my favorite episode of Game of Thrones. In 8 seasons, 69 episodes, this one comes out on top. Now, I know we are going to be picking up with the battle for Winterfell next week, and this opinion will likely change, but by far, this is the greatest episode of Game of Thrones. In this video, I'm going to discuss a few things you may or may not have missed, as well as my favorite moments from the episode and what they mean going into the future of this season. Now, as always, here's your sign and let's freaking begin. Now, before we get started, please slap a like on this video as the like goal is going to be 2,420. Also, make sure you're subscribed and then make sure you have your notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a video. Long nights! Now, the very first thing that I want to talk about in this video, aside from Arya popping some side titty and Jon Snow revealing his lineage to Daenerys, now I will talk about those things, but the very first thing that needs to be discussed is Bran has revealed everything this episode. Like, he told us who the Night King is, what he represents, and who his target will be in this season. Bran has not only confirmed like 10 to 15 fan theories, but he also confirmed that there has been many iterations of the Three-Eyed Raven, and the Night King has done this multiple times. This is almost like a Matrix type of situation where Neo, aka Jon Snow and Daenerys, have to go up against the machine. And just pausing for a second, we gotta give props to Dan and Dave and George R. R. Martin and every single freaking person who was a part of this show, cast and crew included, all of the people who do the small things on the show, even if you just scoop up trash. Thank you. This is what we waited for. This was literally the epitome of 2 years. We got everything we wanted in this episode. This is what made this show famous. Literally, it's just full of raw emotion, plot closure, amazing one-liners, 1,000 years worth of meme material. In the 54 minutes that I spent watching this episode, I went through a range of emotions, humor, ecstasy, joy, laughter, pure I can't even describe it. I mean, we got to see Arya's side titty. But getting back to Bran, he confirmed that the Night King is able to keep track of his whereabouts using the mark that he made on him back in season 6. And also, as a bit of a side note here, a few months ago before the show came out, the actor who plays the Night King, Vladimir Furtick, confirmed to Entertainment Weekly that the Night King will have a target this season. Well, in this episode, Bran confirmed that he is in fact the Night King's target. Bran is no longer Bran Stark. He hasn't been for a while. He is just one iteration of the Three-Eyed Raven. Now, what's interesting is if for some reason Bran dies this season, it kind of seems like they might be going with that. I mean, Bran's going to be sitting in the, I don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself, but in the next episode, Bran is supposedly going to be in the Godswood awaiting for the Night King, and throwing up a spoiler warning here, giving everyone a few seconds to skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to know about this, but some leaks that I've been sent said that this exact same thing happens. Bran waits for the Night King in the Godswood. The leak culminated in Bran dying in the Godswood and then being discovered by Beric Dondarrion. Upon his discovery, Beric gives the kiss of life to Bran, and Bran is able to come back and aid Jon Snow and Daenerys through the remaining few episodes. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but if Bran does die, would it not be possible for him to just transfer his essence to another being? The way Samwell was describing death in these scenes, it seems as though he would be open to the possibility of holding mankind's memory. And since we're discussing how the Three-Eyed Raven is the only protection against the Night King and his ultimate reset, Samwell Tarly has long since thought to be the narrator of the story. There are a few people in the fandom, or actually probably thousands of people in the fandom, that think that Sam is the one who is telling the story at the very end. The person who was most like George R. R. Martin, the author of this series, is in fact Samwell. When writing Samwell's character, George pulled inspiration from his own life. And the fact that Bran made a point to say that he has this mark on him and the Night King will always know where he is and how to find him, then it kind of makes sense that Bran passed on his essence and his energy to someone else. Someone who would be willing and receptive would be Sam. It is extremely poetic that Theon will be the one to guard Bran. I really hope that this doesn't mean the end of Mr. Greyjoy here. He had a bunch of lovely scenes with Sansa, and I kind of feel like if they both survive the battle, they may get some things going on. Sansa, one of the most painful things that happened to her, involved something that Theon is missing. Now that we know he'll be guarding Bran, and Bran is most likely going to be taken out by the Night King, I kind of feel like the scene that Theon had with Yara last season could have been their, or not last season, last episode rather, could have been their last moments together in the show. The thing that was easily missed about the moment when Bran is sharing all this information is that he said the Night King knows his exact whereabouts. He knows what he's doing. So if this is the case, how does Bran cannot 100% know for a fact that the Night King isn't watching and listening in on them right now. The Night King is so powerful, he doesn't necessarily have to warg a subject to know their ever-presence. I am 100% positive that their plan will not go the way they laid it out because Bran knows about it, and that means the Night King ultimately knows about it. And when they plan to take him out after he goes to the Godswood to kill Bran, something's gonna backfire and Daenerys may lose another dragon. Since we're on the subject of things easily missed, early on in the episode, like within the first 15 minutes, Tyrion does about 100 different foreshadowings that he will die at the end of this season. One of the main things that caught my eye, or caught my ears rather, is when he said that by the end of this, someone else, referring to Jorah and Varys, will wear the hand of the Kingpin when it's all said and done. And he's not just talking about the battle for Winterfell, he's talking about also the war for the Iron Throne. He can sense it in his bones, and Daenerys makes it pretty apparent in this episode that his position is in jeopardy. If it wasn't for Jorah sort of sticking up for Tyrion, then she likely would have been extremely salty with him towards the end of the episode, and maybe would have even let him go out on the barracks, like he initially wanted to there. Now, I feel like I need to say this, we're a good little portion into the video, and next week is going to come here before you know it. Episode 3 is going to be the most filled death episode of Game of Thrones. We don't get 2 episodes of the final season and then not have some massive death round coming up. Episode 2 begins with the arrival of the dead at Winterfell, and I can guarantee you that no one is safe. You all let me know down below who you think is most likely to die in the 3rd episode of Game of Thrones Season 8. Now, the next event we need to talk about is Jon Snow revealing his lineage to Daenerys. Now, I'm gonna call myself out. Sir Hunts, you were completely wrong, idiot. The way that this went down was something that I mean, I don't know, the episode was so good, I didn't even look at the tracker, so I didn't realize how much time we had left. And then once this scene starts happening, that's when I checked, and I'm like, wow, they're saving this until the very end. We know the battle for Winterfell is literally going to be starting any second now, and sure enough, that's the way they did it. They never really gave Daenerys time to process it. Now, obviously, we're going to see it more so during the battle, and likely after the battle, but Jon, that is the worst news to tell someone right before they fly off in the battle. And you saw a preview of her reaction to it, when she says, you learn this information from your brother and your best friend. Don't you think that's a little bit weird? Basically insinuating that Jon may try to usurp her and try to take her position, and I think that's just a natural, normal first reaction. She doesn't believe the information, but once she's given the chance to properly realize it, she'll know that Jon barely wanted the crown of the North. I know the type of person he is. We are in love. He's not going to take the throne from me, and my biggest freaking hint should have been the fact that Rhaegal nodded down and let Johnny Boy hop on his back. No questions asked. That should have been the biggest clue that, hey, maybe Jon Snow isn't a Snow, and it is instead, oh man, this was so good, Aegon freaking Targaryen. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. That first Dracarys from Jon Snow is going to be nuts. Clearly Dany taught Jon how to do this. So the first time he does it, I think it's going to be on a horde of whites. I cannot wait. Episode 3, you can't get here fast enough. Yeah, I say that, but once episode 3 gets here and that first person dies, that first lovable character dies, I'll probably start sobbing like a little bitch. Now, one thing that's easily missed about this whole situation is that all the information that Jon Snow and Daenerys have been told respectively about his aunt, or who he thinks is his aunt, and then Rhaegar, Daenerys' brother, has been so that when they finally come together and piece together the clues, they can deliver that crucial information. So far, Jon doesn't really know anything about his father, but if we look back a few seasons ago, everything that he needs to know about how he was a loving, kind person who was a poet that used to sing to people was told to Daenerys by Barristan Selmy. In my opinion, those scenes were included earlier on in this show for the moment that we just saw in episode 2 of season 8. Now, what's interesting is that Daenerys says that Jon is the oldest living Targaryen male heir. Now, the line of succession, I guess, for the show has been simplified for the oldest male Targaryen. There has been a history of Targaryen heirs, not necessarily going to the oldest male heir, but the oldest heir in general, whether that's a female or a male heir. So I don't really know what's going to happen here. The thing we could sort of look at for some pretense would obviously be Jon Snow's character. Now, if we look at Lord of the Rings, which is what Game of Thrones is ultimately based on, it ends with Aragorn taking on a crown, even though he doesn't really want to. So Game of Thrones looks like it's going to be ending that similar way, but we have to look at Jon Snow's character. He barely took the crown of the North, which is something that he could relate to. He grew up as a Stark thinking he was a Stark his whole life, so the fact that he was able to wear the crown of the North to a normal person in this time period would have been a happy thing. But Jon did not really want to take on that. So the fact that he's now told that he's not only dating his aunt, which surprisingly he seems to be taking pretty well. I mean, I guess it didn't shock him as much as him being the heir to the Iron Throne, but the fact that he barely wanted to rule the North and is now being shoved 7 kingdoms, I doubt he's going to want to take that up. I'm pretty sure he's going to rule with Daenerys. The both of them will sit the Iron Throne in the end if they survive, or I guess if the Iron Throne is destroyed, then maybe they will both sit the throne at Dragonstone. I think I've shared enough of my thoughts on Jon Snow and Daenerys and what will come after the battle for Winterfell if they both survive. You all let me know your thoughts on what will happen down below in the comment section. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is not as major as the last two events, but I've hinted at it twice already in this video. Arya side boob. Oh my, okay, let me sort of try to gather my thoughts for this video, but this was a little bit out of left field. Like, I enjoyed it, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I've always said for the past 2 years, and pretty much since I started watching this show, that come the end of this, Arya is pretty much guaranteed to survive. She's one of George R. R. Martin's favorite characters, and the rumor is that if George were to kill her off, he'd have to sleep on the couch for a long time. So a lot of people think that Arya will be safe in the end. But holy crap, I've said for 2 years that Arya will not want to settle down at the end of this journey. She will likely go west to Westeros, and yeah, she's going to run into Gendry again, but she won't be willing and open to have a relationship. And I also said in my last video that Gendry met with Arya and he's probably never going to tell her of his true lineage because he'll die before he gets the chance. That's not the case. Not only did Arya screw the brains out of Gendry, but now she could likely be pregnant with the next member of House Baratheon. Now, I will say compliments to Maisie Williams for doing that yoga. It really shows in this scene in a nice butt crack. When you really look at this scene as a whole, the implications kind of are not looking good for Gendry's favor. I feel like Arya starts out by questioning her, like, how many girls you slept with, dog? You kept it loyal to the game, you know what I mean? And it just feels like when something like this happens with a character, they've been gone for a while, they come back, they get an arc, we care about them. Not only that, but they share a key scene with one of everyone's favorite characters. They're on the top of the list to die. Now, it's interesting that Gendry is sort of trying to protect Arya and sending her below, like, shouldn't you go to the crypts? And she tosses a few freaking bullseyes, as she does multiple times in the episode. And really, the person who should be going down to the crypts here is Gendry. I really hope this bastard Baratheon blacksmith survives until the end. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that could have easily been missed just because the characters didn't acknowledge each other, but Ghost is back! We got to see Ghost in the first direwolf scene that we've had all season, and we haven't really seen much of him at all since season 6. Ghost is back and in action, and I must say that he is ready for war! Now, the moments that follow this scene are awesome. We get a reunion of Dolorous Ed, Samwell Tarly, and Jon Snow, the last few surviving members from the Night's Watch crew way back in the earlier on seasons, and they give a bit of a nod to each other. In my opinion, Sam and Jon will both survive, but I feel like Dolorous Ed could be one of the top candidates to die in this battle. Now, the scene that follows this of, the reunion between the Night's Watch members is pretty freaking hilarious. Most of the second-tier characters, aside from Jaime and Tyrion, are meeting in front of the fireplace in Winterfell, and they are all having a bit of a cute conversation. And then in walks Tormund with his giant freaking elk horn filled with what I assume would be ale. And then he starts telling the story of how he got the name of Giant's Bane. And then we all realize that Tormund be sucking on that giant titty milk. He's literally drinking a fucking flagon, or shit, I guess it's a horn filled with milk. And I feel like with Mac from It's Always Sunny being the dude who gets the arrow shot through his head in the last episode, this was taken from It's Also Sunny as well. The McPoyles love milk. And the fact that Tormund is drinking milk in a room full of people who are drinking booze makes me feel like this is something that's easily missed, and it's another shout out to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, my favorite comedy show of all time. Damon, fighter of the night, man. Now, this part in the episode is where I feel like I said at the beginning of this video, is where we get like 1,000 years worth of meme material. There's so many awesome one-liners, but my favorite one, I think, of the whole show is when Tormund first comes in and he delivers the news that the dead are coming to Jon Snow, and Jon asks, when are they coming? And he says, in the morning, or before the sun comes up or something. And then right after that, he says, is the big woman still here? Like, oh my god, that's so hilarious. Like, his main focus is meeting Brienne. And honestly, Gwendolyn Christie, can you freaking blame him? But speaking of Brienne, she actually becomes a knight in this episode, and this was one of the scenes upon 5 others that I almost cried in. She's wanted to become a knight her entire life, and the fact that Jaime is the one that does it is just amazing. I sort of thought we'd be getting a hookup scene between the two of them, and at this point, after watching those scenes, I'm willing to pay money just so that the two of them can survive and have some sort of consummation at the end of this series. I mean, the fact that Jaime and Brienne have had such character arcs, and neither one of them, it seemingly, have yet to find happiness. I think they would find it in each other's arms, and I really want more touching moments between them before this series is over. Since we're getting kind of low on time for this video, I just want to reiterate, just in case anyone missed, what the plan of the good guys will be for the Battle of Winterfell. Now, they basically plan on fighting the dead and holding them off as long as possible until until the Night King reveals himself. Once he reveals himself, I'm pretty sure Bran will likely be sitting out in the open next to a weirwood tree. Maybe Bran will try to signal to some crows, then the Night King will look through those crows' eyes or those ravens' eyes, see where Bran is, and try to swoop in and grab him. And once he does this is when, bam, Daenerys and Jon Snow plan on hopping out and attacking him directly. Now, I'm 100% positive that since Bran mentioned himself, he's being watched by the Night King is aware of all this. He's likely going to wait until the very last moment. I have long since theorized that once the battle finally goes down, the Night King will realize that the best place for him to attack is actually in the crypts from underneath Winterfell. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but if it does, it will 100% catch the living off guard. Now, one thing we have to remind ourselves of before episode 3 starts, that no matter how much we think we've gotten figured out, nothing is confirmed until it airs on your television screens. This show is famous for subverting tropes and keeping everyone on the top of their tippy toes. And I wouldn't expect anything less for the greatest battle this show has ever done. Just as a bit of some side notes for this battle, it took 55 nights long to film. They wanted to make sure they got everything perfect, and this battle included thousands of extras. In my opinion, even if this battle turns out to be half as good as they said it would be, then we will likely be left all satisfied and smiling. Now, before we get out of here, I just want to quickly run through some of my favorite moments from the episode that I haven't yet mentioned. The first one would have to be Jaime and Tyrion finally getting to talk inside the walls of Winterfell. They're reminiscing, and they talk about the last time they were both there. Jaime was a golden lion, and Tyrion was a horn dog. Now, the thing is, they still are. They've just aged a little bit, and they don't wear their emotions on their sleeves as much, but I'm pretty sure given the first chance, Tyrion's gonna take a little trip to the Wintertown brothel, and if Jaime does survive this battle, I'm pretty sure when given the chance, he's gonna flee back to Cersei and try to convince her to lay down her arms and maybe do something so that the two of them can escape off into the sunset together. Characters progress to a certain point, but what makes this television so great is that it shows all of the flaws in human nature. Sometimes we relapse. Now, the foreshadowing to Jaime running back to Cersei was actually at the beginning of the episode when Jaime's being called out for all of his shit by Daenerys. She tells him this, and this, and he's like, yeah, and given the chance, I'd do it all again. We're at war. In my mind, and I could be wrong here, I felt that as soon as the war, being the living versus the dead, is over, Jaime's going to likely go back and join the Lannisters. If he's able to survive the events of the battle for Winterfell, then I don't really know if he'd want to stick around in a place where he's so unwanted. Brienne and Sansa did vouch for him, but once the boos are gone, the smoke clears, and there's no longer the threat of the dead, would Jaime Lannister receive such a warm welcome and acceptance? No, probably not. This is most likely, in my opinion, going to cause him to go and join back with Cersei Lannister. Another one of my favorite moments from the show is finding out that Pod learns how to fight. He's leading the training in the defenses of Winterfell, pretty much one-upping every person that comes in front of him. This is awesome. That means that Brienne's training has worn off on him, and Pod stands a decent chance of surviving the battle for Winterfell because of this. Then we have Arya's reunion with Beric and Sandor. It was pretty awesome. Everything that was said, I expected to be said, and I thoroughly enjoyed those moments. I feel like we haven't seen very much from Sandor this episode, or this season rather. I know there's only been 2 episodes of the season, but I think that's because in episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6, he's got a big plot coming up, and I think that may be something to do with Arya. They're going to reconnect, and it's likely going to be on a journey down to King's Landing. Another moment that I thoroughly enjoyed from the episode is from when Bran meets with Jaime. Now, it's interesting because I thought that interaction was going to go completely different, and then I had to remind myself that Bran is the three-eyed raven now. He's not who he used to be. He actually thanks Jaime, which is something that we all sort of thought about. Like, we hate on Jaime so much, but if he hadn't have pushed Bran out of the window, then Bran wouldn't be the three-eyed raven, and he wouldn't have been able to help Jon Snow and all of the good guys so much. So it's like we hate Jaime for nearly murdering a child, but we also have to thank Jaime because if he hadn't have done what he did, then Bran would never have become who he was. And for that, I have to give another big fat thank you to Dan and Dave and George R. Martins and every single person who's involved with the show. You guys made it so that we get all of these moments that we wanted to, and it's not taking away from the actual storyline. We wanted that acknowledgement of Bran talking to Jaime, finally hashing out things from the past, and the fact that the writers sort of just include this line of dialogue to let us know that yes, it was intentional, and we have been planning this all the way from the start. It is amazing. It confirms just how genius this show truly is. And now that we're getting towards the end of the video, and with war looming around the corner, if you all want, let me know down below in the comments section, and I'll whip up a leaks video that will include all of the information I've been sent on the episode 3 battle for Winterfell. Not throwing up a spoiler warning here, I've been sent several leaks, including a massive dragon battle scene between Daenerys and the Night King, and another leak scene that involved Jaime and Arya and the direwolves. So if you all want that leaked air quotations video for episode 3, let me know down below in the comment section, and I'll try to whip that up for you and have it posted by Wednesday. And just to sort of reiterate, this episode was amazing. amazing, and as of right now, it is my favorite episode of Game of Thrones. In 69 episodes, over 100 hours, this is my favorite. Everything that we've been looking forward to in the past several seasons and the 2-year wait all led up to this episode. This was so well written, so well acted. This episode got me so hype for episode 3 of Game of Thrones season 8. Not that I couldn't have already been more hyped to begin with, but a big props and a big thank you to every single person who has ever had anything to do with this show. Y'all rock and bravo. Alright, and with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please slap a like on this video, as the like goal is going to be 4,269. Also, make sure you're subscribed, and then make sure every notification's turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a video. Also, if you could please head over to Twitter and give me a follow at Sir_Hunts, and then head over to Instagram as well and give me a follow at Sir_Hunts_reviews. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. Super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. And if anyone watching this video is interested in joining that, check out the link down below in the description or the link right up here. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunts Reviews. You know, I haven't really done one of these after the credits sort of thing here, but Sansa and Daenerys, thank you guys for making up. And I don't know if y'all can hear it, but I was just clapping at the same time. I really did enjoy that scene, and I forgot to mention in this video, but it shed some light on more of both of their characters. They're coming from different places, and this is that conversation that I had mentioned they needed to have after immediately watching episode 1. And I know the conversation ends with Sansa being concerned about the North, but after Daenerys found out the information about Jon, I'm pretty sure the North is going to be left alone. They all have bigger things to worry about.